celebration, with a barbecue pits and the mini bikes, mini skirts in the seas and the Miller Lights, domino tables. Who got big six? Where I'm from, we do concrete backflips, flip flop back through the ghettos where I bring hip hop back. Real love me, they tell me keep it pushing. The only niggas speak for wayside of central bookings, county jails and I'm locked.
This is a 1976 Cadillac Eldorado, and it is the most luxurious coupe America ever made, and I finally have it in my diecast car collection. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Imperial Diecast, and look at this beauty. One of the best decisions Model Car World made in recent years was to bring back this amazing casting, which had originally released about 7 or 8 years ago as a BOS resin for like twice the price, and I think it didn't even have the removable soft top back then, but now has been made available in their Diecast MCG brand, with not just a removable drop top, but also a separate piece to show the area in its closed state. Not sure what it's called though. In German it's called Persenning. Maybe it's tonneau cover in English, although those are for covering up beds of pickup trucks, I think. And as you can see here, it's got magnets that align with the magnets in the holes so it doesn't fall off. Cadillac advertised it as a hideaway top because when folded, it will be completely beneath the belt line. So all those people who missed out on the BOS resin can finally add this one to their collection. This model was announced in early 2025, I think, and I spent like most of the year having it on my wish list, not knowing when it would release. And in October, it did. Model Car Group has released this in 4 colors so far, next to a classic Mafia-style black. It's also available in a metallic blue, in a nice red, and in this white, which also happens to be the bicentennial edition that came out in 1976 to celebrate America's 200th birthday. And 200 such cars were made, where the entire car was in triple white, as in white exterior, white top, and white interior, along with red and blue pinstriping adorning the hood to complete the Star-Spangled Banner's colors, and with the red pinstriping continuing along the sides, as well as a red dashboard, footwell, and door panels. And unlike the other color options which had black wheel covers, the Bicentennial also had white ones. There should even be a commemorative plaque on the dashboard saying it's the Bicentennial edition. Let's see if MCG made sure to include that detail. And look at that, we actually have the plaque right there, which is very nice of them to include that for this color option, although I wonder what it says. We'll take a look at that later when checking out the interior. Now this is the Eldorado Convertible, and not the Eldorado Barretts, which was a trim level for the hardtop only, and where you'd get a smaller opera window, along with a Lando vinyl top. I've been fascinated by this car ever since I saw Doug DeMuro's review of the 1977 Eldorado Barretts back in 2017, which was, just like this one, a 9th generation Eldorado made from 1971 to 1978. 1979 onward, it was squashed into a much smaller format because after the oil crisis in 1973, people couldn't cruise around with 2.5-ton cars like these anymore, that only did like 10 miles per gallon compared to today's cars that do like 30 or more. Because of the 73 oil crisis and declining sales in the years that followed for what were increasingly perceived as extravagant full-size cars, GM competitors like Buick and Chevy had phased out their convertibles such as the Caprice or the LeSabre convertible by 1976, leaving only GM selling their own, and so Cadillac marketed this in 1976 as not just their own last convertible as well, but as the last American convertible. And true to their word, the final 2 years of the 9th generation, the 77 and 78 Eldorados, were hardtops only. However, they did reintroduce a downsized Eldorado convertible in 1984, which did make some people angry who had bought the 76 convertibles, believing they were investments. And here's a look at the front of the 1/18 scale 1976 Cadillac Eldorado by Model Car Group. And you can see that the front is done very nicely. This looks exactly like the front of the old 118 BOS version. And it's so iconic. I mean, you've got these massive quad headlamps. These rectangular headlamps were introduced in 1975. The 74 Eldorado still had circular ones. As you can see in this picture, there's a huge front grille in between them that goes even further down than the bumper line. So the bumper is actually protecting it because there's a little bit of space. And of course, for the Centennial, we have the AM 1776 license plate. These are from Colorado. We've got Cadillac written at the top right of the front grille. We've got amber indicators underneath the bumper, and then we have these decorative Cadillac sort of sword-like elements, where before I think the headlamps on some other cars used to be from this time period. And then of course we have the very fragile hood ornament, which is of course known as the Cadillac wreath and crest. In previous generations this was part of the front frame, but now it's a separate hood ornament. And as we move on further up and along the hood, you can just see how massive it is. This thing has a 500 cubic inch 8.2 liter V8, but unfortunately, malaise era emissions regulations mean it has very little horsepower to show for it, around 190, which is like 23 horsepower per liter. Back in 1972, it was tuned to output 235 horsepower, that over the next few years kept decreasing year on year. By the way, if you put a giant pair of bullhorns on the hood, you'd have Boss Hogg's car from the Dukes of Hazzard movie. The car from the TV show was a 1970 Cadillac DeVille, though. Now, although the hood isn't openable, MCG has actually managed to add this particular detail here, these notches, which are actually a lamp monitor system that operated on fiber optics, believe it or not, all the way back in 1976. When you put on your turn signal, a small light would turn on inside the outermost hole. When you have your headlights on, the center hole would light up, and when you have your high beams on, the innermost hole would light up. Now, unfortunately, MCG did not, raise them a little more so that you could see the holes, but this is still better than nothing. Now, MCG modeled the chrome windshield wipers as separate pieces instead of molding them on the windshield, and in fact they're even movable. We've also got the defroster vents colored in black, and one more in each corner. One thing I don't like, though, is that the ragtop doesn't align perfectly with the windshield frame. As you can see, there's a bit of an overhang. But yeah. And here's a look at the side of the 1976 Cadillac Eldorado convertible, and you can see I once again have trouble fitting it into my viewfinder because of how long it is. This coupe is almost 19 feet long in real life. American automotive luxury was intended for the U.S. interstate system and the national highways. There are big wide roads in much of the country, and by comparison, Europe has tiny roads, so the 1979 and later Eldorados would work fine in Europe, but not this one. That being said, the car itself is not that roomy. A lot of space is wasted on the super long hood, and the boot can fit like 3 bodies side by side, leaving not that much room for the rear passengers in this 2+2 coupe. Now, the early model years had fender skirts, but by 1975 they had been removed. This is, of course, a front-wheel drive car. In fact, it was the world's largest front-wheel drive car in 1976. There's also a massive indicator on the front overhang. And while we're here, you may notice a seam here, and that isn't an issue with the casting, but it's like that on the real car as well, because these protruding sections on the car are not metal, but rubber. And they're like hollow on the inside, so they tend to crack up over time. And I don't know what Cadillac was thinking when they just extended that like that, without like metal frame being the part that was extended. The mirror sculpts have Cadillac engraved into them, and MCG made sure to include that detail as well. Now, if I put the top back on, you can see that we have frameless windows, like there's no B-pillar. The door handles are separate chrome pieces, and there's also an Eldorado branding on the rear overhang. And now taking a look at the wheels, I absolutely love the wheels on this Eldorado. These hubcaps look ultra luxurious, especially like the turbine design around them. And it still has the white walls from the 1950s, so yeah, it just adds to the glamour of this car. They've got what appears to be a Cadillac wreath and crest in the middle, although it's kind of poorly done because it's really hard to see. And yeah, the rest of the wheel also looks very nice. And here's a look at the rear wheel. Got that circular black trim around the wheel hub. So, just really nice. Just like the chrome rocker panel here at the front. And taking a look at the back of the 1976 Cadillac Eldorado, you can see that the back is perhaps not as ostentatious as the front, but it's still well done. We've got taillights on either side of the rear license plate, which itself is flanked by the 2 reverse lights. Now, contrary to most Cadillacs, this one has horizontal tail lamps. For the final 1978 model year, they would become vertical again. And then, of course, we have the Cadillac crest on top, and above the right taillight, we have the Eldorado script. We also have vertical decorative elements, which have taillights built into the chrome parts, which is also a really nice touch. The only other car that I have in my collection that also has this is the 1982 Cadillac Fleetwood Brougham. So that's really cool. Got the 2 massive dual exhausts, although for 190 horsepower, that's more for show than anything else. The fuel door is hidden underneath the rear license plate. As for the trunk lock, it is behind the Cadillac crest, so you have to move it to be able to open the trunk. And now, let's check out the Eldorado's interior. So for the 1976 model year, you can see that it is pretty basic. There is just the massive air vents and little else. I think there's a couple of controls there for the radio and perhaps 2 knobs that could be either for the radio or for the climate. There's the turn signal stock. But yeah, here's another look at that plaque. Now, unfortunately, the lettering itself is kind of blurry, so you can't really read that above the glove box. But it is embedded into what appears to be like some kind of wood veneer that is also reddish in color. We've got the rearview mirror here, white sun visors. The Bicentennial also has red A-pillar interiors, which MCG faithfully replicated here. Now taking a look at the seats, you can see that they have the red piping, which the BOS doesn't have. These seats would have additional pillows mounted on them for the 1977 model year if you went with the Barrett's trim level. As for the door cards, the door panel is done better on the BOS version because it has the hinged wooden handle in the extended position and ashtrays built into it, as you can see in this picture. While here, you just get the small door handle. Some wood paneling here and back here. And then the seatbelt buckles are just hinted at, but not separately colored or anything. Also, there's not a whole lot of legroom, as you can see. MCG also didn't model in the door handle for the rear passengers that is built into the giant door panel as well, while they were on the BOS. And taking a look at the driver's side, you can see we've got the 3-spoke steering wheel with the Cadillac emblem in the middle. And behind it, we've got the analog gauge cluster, which is kind of hard to read, but it does have the lettering. Then here's a little knob for the airflow. A couple more buttons down there, which are also hard to see. This is an automatic, but for some reason it's got 3 pedals instead of 2. We also get red floor mats. But yeah, aside from that, this is an absolutely awesome car and arguably the best MCG ever made. And taking a look at the bottom of the car, gotta be very careful with the hood ornament. So you can see here that there's not much detail. It just says 118 Cadillac Eldorado Convertible. It's got like the fuel tank, 2 mufflers, the exhaust system, and then a little bit of detail for the transmission and such, but not much else. So I hope you guys liked my review of the 1/18 scale 1976 Cadillac Eldorado Convertible by MCG, or Model Car Group. I think it is a fantastic casting, and just as much in terms of detail as the old BOS one. But the fact that they're selling it for like half the price is doing us diecast collectors a big service. So thanks for that, and catch you in the next review, guys. Take care. Have a wonderful day. This is Imperial Diecast, signing out.